Hey everyone, it's Graham Coath with My Music. It feels good to be back, having been on holiday for a week and having not done one of these for a while. So there you go. In a minute, I'm going to be talking to Sean, my friend here, from the band TRAITRS. But first, this. I need to get going, Mel. See you later. So not so much hit me with your rhythm stick, but hit me with your one of those.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I like that, man.
These are really good. I know they sponsor the show, right? But they are really, really good.
Yeah.
You know, it's an amazing thing. When you're a musician, so many musicians now use laptops as part of their kit on stage.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. Yeah. But have it at the right height. Otherwise, you end up with a bad neck. That's important.
Yeah.
I once knew a bass player. I don't know about you, but I once knew a bass player that had to completely relearn how to play his bass because he was getting tendonitis in his fingers.
Yeah, that's no joke. Yeah, I know a friend of mine's a drummer, and his carpal tunnel, it's tough. You know, the body doesn't agree all the time with what we want to do. So.
No, I mean, look at where poor Phil Collins ended up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's real. I mean, it's sad. It's sad when it, you know, you have an immense talent like that, and then the body just gives up on you. It's a difficult thing. Anyway, sir, we're not here to talk about Phil Collins.
No,
here to talk about you and your music.
Yeah, screw Phil Collins, man. Sean's here.
Yeah, absolutely. What's on your T-shirt, sir? What? Because that looks great.
The Bad Brains. The Pride of DC, band in DC. There we go, man.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great T-shirt.
Yeah. They're one of our, Sean and I, you know, as much as we are associated with the post-punk and goth scene, like we come from a punk kind of DIY background. So, you know, like our heroes were like Husker Du and Bad Brains and Fugazi, in addition to the ones that you'd kind of expect if you listen to our band, like The Cure and Echo and the Bunnymen and stuff. But the punk, and like, especially in Toronto, like the DIY scene and punk ethic is very alive here. So there isn't a big like dark wave or goth scene, but there's a huge punk DIY scene. And it's all just, everybody is just like, you know, everybody knows a guy that prints shirts. Everybody knows a guy that can get record sleeves done. So it's just like, it's a part of who we are, the whole, you know, punk do-it-yourself type of attitude, man. So yeah, Bad Brains are great. I Against I love that album. It's very good.
Yeah. Well, listen, you mentioned already some bands that have presumably been an influence over the years, but let's go right back to the beginning.
Sure.
For a start, I got your name wrong. Because this happens because over email, because I've never seen you before. I've never met you before, right? Yes. So what is your name?
My name is Sean. It's Sean.
Your name is Sean. Oh, sorry, your name is Sean.
It is. Right. Yes, it's Sean. My name is hyphenated, so it is Sean Patrick. So technically, my first name is Sean Patrick, but only my father calls me Sean Patrick, and I think that's an ego thing because his name's Patrick. So
okay, fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Right. So listen, Sean Patrick.
Yes.
Sean for sure.
Yes. Sure.
Let's take you back to those early days. Were your parents listening to music? Did you grow up in a musical house?
Yeah, not a musical house in the sense of like playing instruments, but I lucked out, man. Like my parents had like excellent taste in music. So like it was not uncommon for me to grow up in the morning on weekends with my dad just hanging out and playing toys and hearing like Led Zeppelin, Sabbath. Like I got a really good overview of kind of the classic stuff. He liked Tangerine Dream. My dad liked really obscure. Yeah. So like
something a bit different. Yeah. Right.
So imagine being like a 5-year-old kid playing with my wrestling toys and I'm listening to, you know, Tangerine Dream and Brian Eno, and then he'd put on Muddy Waters and he'd put on and then my mom liked more like popular music, so like ABC and Simple Minds, and so it's yeah. So it's
That's
good.
Great.
Yeah. So they always, and what was So like my living with parents like mine, it was kind of like living with music curators. So back when we still had the everything was just on CDs. I watched my dad sell his old vinyl collection and then rebuy everything on CDs. But like I could listen to anything, and he could recommend anything. So when I'm listening to just discovering Nirvana as a kid and going, Dad, have you ever heard of this band Nirvana? He'll go, listen to Sonic Youth, listen to, like, he'd be able to recommend all of the, the ones that, like the Meat Puppets and bands that inspired them. So it was great because it was always like, it was like having like the Spotify algorithm as your parent, kind of just going like, oh, if you like this, you'll like X, Y, and Z. And that's like, I realized talking to other people, like I kind of took that for granted growing up as a kid because not everybody has that. So yeah,
no, so right. Not everybody has that.
Yeah, but
really,
yeah.
My parents, and I've talked about this on this show before, but my parents had such limited vocabulary when it came to music. You know, it literally was that we had that in terms of size was the amount of albums that we had. Right. And it was literally, and one of those was an album called Beatles, Bach and Beethoven Bossa Nova. Right. I mean, that tells you the kind of extent of the listening.
The alliteration's nice, though. I like all the B's.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah. I stayed up all night coming up with that one.
And actually, I've had a few guests that said, I really want to hear that album.
Well, I mean, a Bach Bossa Nova, like, I don't even know what that would sound like. Like, that's really, it's got my gears turning.
Awful.
Yeah.
I can tell you now, my friend, it was pretty awful.
Don't get your hopes up. Yeah.
I think there was a Johnny Mathis, bless his soul, in there as well. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, and a Nana Muscuri. Yeah. But it was really, and so for me, when I started hanging around with a group of friends who were actually that little bit older than me, and then they started the same as you, when they started playing stuff like Zeppelin and Toll and Deep Purple and stuff like that, and then and more experimental stuff, and Tangerine Dream, that was in there as well. Tubular Bells, and then but at school people were listening to all the pop stuff as well. So yeah,
it's a good mix. I feel like that still kind of informs my listening now. Like I can listen to really weird experimental stuff, and then I also appreciate, like, I can appreciate pop records for, like, if it's not necessarily like the songs are striking me, like the production in pop music now is crazy. So like I like listening to Kanye, and I like listening to stuff just to hear how they're mixing stuff. Like you can still kind of get stuff out of it, but I feel like, by having my mom like poppy, stuff, and my dad listening to kind of everything, it's like, that's still, I'm very much the same person. Like I can appreciate both worlds. Yeah.
And don't you think there's a lot of good music comes from the blend of those two as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Like over the pandemic, I was listening to FKA Twigs, and I had somehow, like, I guess I missed her whole like rise or whatever. And then I'm listening to this, and it's like her last record reminds me of Kate Bush. And then the record before that it's just so weird. And like, I really liked it, but that's like, I mean, her videos have millions upon millions of views, and she's a huge artist, but like, it's very experimental and very weird. And I love her physical performances in the videos and stuff. So yeah, you can get, that's the thing. Like, that's what I love about music. It's like, it's, if you just keep an open mind, and you can be picky about what you like, but also be willing to challenge what you like, and don't just like what actually try to, expose yourself to different things. And not everything is for everybody. It's like movies, like Marvel movies aren't for me, but I get that art house horror films aren't for everybody either. But it's like, find your little niche and keep an open mind, and you'll surprise yourself. I think a lot of, you can get a lot of, especially as an artist and as a creative person, I think you can definitely get ideas once you step out of your comfort zone and start listening to things that people wouldn't necessarily associate with your art. So
I agree. Well, who the first band you really got into? really got into?
That's kind of okay. So like I'm a victim of the age that I grew up in. So like I'd like to say a cooler band, but the most popular band at the time was Korn with a K. So this was so you got to remember as an awkward, anxious 13-year-old kid, these guys just yelling, and it was groovy and it was heavy and stuff. Like it really kind of spoke to me. But again, kind of like my dad, they would talk about in interviews like Duran Duran, and they would kind of reference these other bands that I sort of got into after the fact. But Korn and Deftones were another one that was just like, that was it as a young boy. But they were like gateway drugs into that, got me looking into the grunge bands, that got me listening into like heavier stuff like Mayhem and Sepultura and all the thrash metal bands and stuff like that. And but yeah, so as a kid, as a teenager, I was definitely a metalhead, and I sang in metal bands in high school.
Did
and that
you?
was kind of, I did. So that was kind of my gateway into performing, and also to getting over massive anxiety too, because it was easier for me to stand on stage and scream into a microphone than it was to keep eye contact in a conversation with my teachers or anything. So
were you quite a shy boy, actually, outside of music? Yeah.
It was weird. My parents said I wasn't when I was very little, and then somewhere around second or third grade, I got shy. I got kind of, I was, and still to this day, man, like, I don't know, sometimes like I'm good. I feel like I've kind of gotten it mostly out of my system, but sometimes if I, back when we could get haircuts, if I could, sometimes I hit the barber chair and I go like, I'm going to have all these cool conversations with this guy, and they're just gone. And I'm just like, so it's still kind of in me. That shy little kid is still walking around, but, yeah.
No, I completely get it. I call myself a shy extrovert.
Yeah. Like people that know me will say, "Oh, Sean can't keep his freaking mouth shut." But if you meet me at a party or something, it's like I don't know. I'm still like that in a weird way. But
I guess it's where you feel comfortable performing to a certain extent as well.
Yes. And that was like a pivotal. I remember, like, I actually remember we learn in grade 4, they teach you how to play the penny whistle, or the recorder, we call it here. And I really liked it. Like, it was something, because I think, all kids play sports and all kids are kind of exposed to everything. But there was something about that. Like, I started to try to teach myself how to play songs and things. And it was the first time I felt like I was getting more out of this than the other stuff that I was into, and it felt, and it continued that way. And I remember we were playing like just like a small Christmas concert in front of parents and things, and I remember being very proud that I was selected to be one of the half a dozen penny whistle players for this, whatever the Christmas story or whatever it was at that time. So it's kind of, I don't know, it helped me get out. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. I understand that, I was similar. I've told this story before, but I was pulled out of maths because by my music teacher, because he wanted someone that could go and program the music computer.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was a geek, right? I always loved music, but I'd never really felt confident enough to be able to express myself. I thought that was for musicians, like the kids that could really play instruments and stuff. But then suddenly there was this, I think at some point you find that thing, for a lot of people, you find that thing that you can really connect to. I always sang though. I always sang. Did you always sing?
I did. Like as a kid, I would. Like I'd run around the room, and like my dad would play the Ramones, and I'd get all riled up, and I'd run around and just,
Not in front of other people, but you sang.
Yeah. Oh, always. Yeah. I'd always be, singing around the house and whatnot. So.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, that bit where you go from being a bedroom singer, a house singer, a singer in the shower to doing it in front of other people. Did that come comfortably for you, or did you?
It was terrifying. It was utterly terrifying. But it was like I knew once I was standing there, I have to do it now. Like, I'm not gonna not do this now. I know I can do it. I've trained myself enough to be able to do this. And then I could, and it was terrible. And I remember seeing video of it after. It was like, it was our oh man, what was it? Grade 11, like talent show or something. And it was the first time I'd actually heard myself singing. And oh man, was it not good at all? Like, I'm heaving, and it was terrible. But it was like, but that there was something in it. I like that everybody was looking at me. I like that you as a shy kid that gets jealous of the popular, cuter guys in school getting attention from people. It was like, now you got to pay attention to me. You got to hear, and I'm, just I can do anything up here. So I remember it was a visceral thing, and it was like once I did it once, I was like, oh man, I need to like
do it again.
Yeah, can I do this all the time? So.
Yeah, no, do you know what, that resonates so much, because exactly the same. For me it was like, in class at school, I as you say, I actually, when I was young I was a show off all the time, and then I got to schooling. It's something about school. I think you get into this kind of hierarchy at school. There's the confident kids at school who seem to be able to mess around in front of the teachers, do everything, show off, and just be cool all the time. And I didn't fit in with them.
Yeah.
Neither was I like completely on the sidelines with all of the people that, were, not the really uncool kids. I was kind of somewhere in the middle. Just
Because I feel like those really, like, I was always intimidated by like the really, really smart kids, like gifted kids, like math, people that were really good at math and really good at science, like, because I'm not like, I appreciate those things, but I don't have the fundamentals to like, I enjoy reading about physics and black holes and stuff, but I couldn't tell you what is actually going on. So those real logical people, like, they kind of, I am intimidated by them, because I feel like I'm an imposter. Like I want to be this intellectual arty guy, and I'm a fraud or something.
Well, you see, now I've got a child like that.
Yeah,
who's like an A-star student and can tell you about black holes and whatever. But it is intimidating. Yeah, but we're just different. We're just different people. Yeah, that's all it is, Sean. We're just different people. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, and obviously the reference is there, The Cure. Yeah. And I just wrote a couple of posts about The Cure the other day, because so back into The Cure again at the moment, because Robert Smith seems to have is crawling back out of his shell lately.
Yeah. It started with that Churches song.
Oh, how good is that?
Man, I know. It was great.
Yeah,
absolutely tremendous. I love it.
So I mean, in terms of that, not obviously being like The Cure, but that the kind of Cure-esque, let's call it that, interest in both guitar and electronic sounds and whatever. Yeah. When did that grow for you?
I started getting, it was actually Sean, our lead singer, who's also named Sean. Because he's a bit older than me, so he, like, The Cure was always a band that bands that I liked would reference, but I never actually started listening to it. And he was the one that just would burn me CDs with just like, Disintegration and the best, like all the singles on one thing. And so that like realizing how expansive their sound is, because I think I had this idea that they were like, I only knew the kind of quirky poppy stuff that they did.
Love Cats and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I still don't like Love Cats. Like, I just don't. Like, I understand why they creatively would want to do that, but whatever. But like, just how abysmal Disintegration is. And then all the goth records, the trio, the trilogy, like, it's like hearing Pornography was like, oh man, like it's those are records that they change you. They change the way you look at the world. It sounds kind of, highfalutin or something, but I feel like they do. There's something about when you can really, something resonates with you really deep, like it understands something that you don't even know about yourself or something. And that's what it felt like listening to The Cure. So like when Sean and I come to make our own music, it wasn't necessarily like, well, how can we sound the most like The Cure? But it's like, I call it trying to catch the spirit of The Cure, or the spirit of what is it about these bands? Because obviously it's, it's the totality of it, but it's like, how do they put these things together? How is it about, like, Robert Smith's voice, as iconic as it is, it's the emotion that it's in his vocal cords. Like it's impossible for him to not emote or make you feel something when he sings. And it's like, okay, how can we do our own version of that? And I think you will like, it's a fun game to play, where it's like, we don't want to sound too Cure-y, but you pick little tricks out of how they do things. And then, but yeah, so it was,
I don't think you sound too Cure-y. I think you sound like your own. I think you sound like your own band. I think you can tell that you're influenced by The Cure, which is a great thing.
Yes. Yeah. It's I think our earlier stuff, like Rites and Ritual, it's definitely like Burnt Offerings. There's songs on there that are like much more, but that's kind of, we were still figuring out how to make that music. So that was a weird transition too. It was just like, because we don't have a drummer, and a lot of it is programming and sequencing. So we were like, okay, how can we make a post-punk sound with just drum machines and stuff, but make it not electronic? We were doing more electronic sounding stuff prior to that, and it wasn't connecting or working really. So it was a while to kind of figure out how to do it. And I feel like with the record that's coming out this year, I feel like this is what we've been trying to do the whole time. This is what it is. And but the old stuff, I think, is you can hear the Cure thing. And there's something about just Sean's voice. Sean doesn't try to sound like Robert Smith, but I think it's something, it's like a tonal thing, like it's but I think we're angry. Like our friends in Germany always say we're like the angry Cure, because when we play live, it's intense and a lot more. The punk and post-punk comes out a lot more when we play live. So we try to
Well, I think that's something that goes across both bands. That intensity, I think what you're saying in a way is that what the spirit that you're trying to capture is that kind of intensity, and really trying to draw the listener into a place, as opposed to just listening to the song.
Yeah, exactly. Like how I come. I come from a literary background. Like I went to school for writing, for creative writing and journalism. So that's what, like when I was in my short story writing classes, they would talk about that, like creating a believable world, that it can be otherworldly or sci-fi, or things can be futuristic, but as long as you're consistent, you will draw your reader in. And I feel like music is the same way. I feel like the more you can create this feeling, almost more so, it's like the songs will come out of that, if that makes sense. Like Sean and I talk a lot about like the atmosphere and textures and tempos and how it matches what we're trying to convey with a song. And that's a huge part of it too. And that's what, like, how immersive Disintegration is from beginning to end. Like that is an experience. That whole album takes you on an emotional journey with these guys writing this music and performing it. And that's what we try to do too, or at least aspire to, is like make something that actually by the end of it, you feel like you've been somewhere, or you've changed a little bit or something. So
I think you might have just done it with this album.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
so that's a good thing. And I think that's what a lot of listeners want. Yeah, it's kind of that Alice in Wonderland type experience.
Totally.
As you say, it's you're that escape into somewhere else, into getting your mind to disappear into something else.
But it's familiar. Like there's something about music that it can communicate, like total strangers on different parts of the world with different backgrounds and different histories and different upbringings, and different everything. You can, just with sound and words, you can make somebody who you've never met, you can remind them of something that they've been through or felt or something. And that's also what with capturing the spirit of that stuff, because it's like The Cure, you hear it and you remember exactly where you were and the mental space you were in when you heard them for the first time. Or if you're in a bad mood, you have your music that you put on when you're kind of bummed out. And it's like, I want to be that band for some 16-year-old kid or something. That's like what I want. I want somebody to go like, man, TRAITRS really understand me the way that I feel when I listen to like Kid A or something. And I'm like, oh my God, Tom York is this guy in my head? Like, how is he able to communicate this stuff? So it's like, it's a game. It's like or I always call it a game, but it's like, it's because it's not specific. You're talking about this kind of vague, esoteric type of things. And it's not necessarily like a technical playing thing. It's how things, sit with the listener and sit with you. So the more honest we can be when we're coming up with ideas, I think the more it translates into the music. So
what was the main difference then for going into this album that or the thing that you learned?
Yeah,
I think that really helped it transcend where you were from before.
I think it was the biggest thing was just how much we were playing. Like we were touring constantly after the release of Butcher's Coin. So we put out Rites, just to give a quick little summary. We put out Rites and Ritual on a cassette and with a small boutique label in Toronto, Pleasance Records. Hello, James Lindsay, if you're watching this, we love you. Well, so we put out this cassette just to like see if anybody would like this music. And there were a bunch of record shops in Germany that happened to buy it, and people just said, hey, like, you have a bigger market here than in North America. Because at the time, the goth scene was kind of in a lull period, shall we say. So it wasn't really, and we weren't even trying to be a goth band. We were just trying to make post-punk music. But we got sort of pulled into this goth world, and we were like, okay, like, this is giving us an opportunity to tour and play that we're not getting at home. And they actually do these crazy things like, pay you pretty well. And our Canadian dollar sucks so much that when we get paid in euros, dude, it feels like we're just like making bank, man. Like it's so, so that was really eye-opening. So when we put out Butcher's Coin, like it opened the floodgates, and all of a sudden we're playing in Hungary, and we're playing in Finland, and we're playing in Sweden, and we're going to Poland and Portugal and everywhere. And we were playing so much, and we knew that we had to follow up Butcher's Coin at some point. Thin Flesh was starting to get a lot of traction. It was getting played at all these parties over there. So we're like, okay, we knew we have to follow this up eventually. So we would write on days off and things. So we would get all juiced up and our adrenaline would be pumping during these live shows. And then on the down days, the down period in between, that's the thing about being two people and being as mobile as we are, is we can set up on a bus and write, and you won't you'll just hear the strings and the clicks. You won't hear anything else. So
no, you don't have to book a studio and
exactly.
and all that.
Exactly. Yeah. So on the flights, I would just, if I was bored, I like making drum beats. I love it. I love making synth sounds and pat sounds and stuff. So it's just like, to me, it's fun.
Nobody else on the flight likes it, right? They're all sitting there. You're going.
Yeah, I know.
And they like, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
You've been doing that for an hour.
They'll say to their friends, there's no way this guy does this professionally. There's no way. This guy, he says he's like, but that's the thing. So like
in my head, it sounds great.
Dude, if you were in my cans, you would be in another world. You have no clue. Right? But yeah.
So true. So true.
Yeah. But so that was it. So like, I think it was just the experience of playing a lot, and also when you play a lot, and we don't have a lot of songs to draw on for performing, so you realize, ooh, this song kind of kills the crowd. Like you can see the holes in your own back catalog. So it would, in the back of our head, we would go, okay, we need more fast songs, because when we play these ones, unless people are more familiar with who you are, because we would do a combination of headlining shows and opening for bands that don't know who we are. So the ones where you're opening for bands that where their audience doesn't know you, those are really, they can be the more awkward ones, but that's where you really learn about your own like strengths and weaknesses in your songs and in your performing too. So that kind of helped everything. So we would take all of that information we'd basically been glossing out of our sets, and then we would write and just try to make music that we think that we love and that we think our audience will be able to really connect with live, and what that is. And sometimes it's a tempo thing, other times it's like like an atmospheric thing, like textures and stuff, and how we do it. So yeah, I don't know. So that was it. It was like basically studying. It was like we were playing really well, and with COVID, we had already had that time blocked off to record anyways. So yeah, I don't know. We were in really good shape, but I would say touring was 100% what changed everything for us.
Is there any reference to COVID at all on the album?
There isn't, but like it's like the whole
inadvertently.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can listen to the lyric. Like it's funny. There's a line on one of our songs, "Ghost in the Storm," and Sean says something like, "I've been inside 100 days," which was it's just a throwaway line or something. But now it's like with lockdowns and everything. Yeah, now it's just like, oh my god, like how did he know? This lyric he wrote like a year and a half or like 2.5 years ago. How did he have any idea? But like, so it's not. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, he's Nostradamus. It's not. Yeah, it's not about COVID, but like we started recording before, like when the pandemic was just happening, overseas, and then we had to stop recording in the middle of it, and we had to keep coming back and do it with the masks. And I had to do a final mix of the record on FaceTime with Josh on New Year's Eve. So it's like it's all over the record, but it's not directly addressed or anything. But I think this is a thing that I think people are going to be.
Is there an underlying theme to the whole thing?
Yeah, yes, there is. I feel like Sean and I, in addition to touring a lot, like we had a lot going on personally too, and I think touring kind of helps you leave some things that should be looking at or taking care of, and you can go like this. We'll worry about that in a month and a half because I got to play shows and everything. So I feel like the theme on the record is time and aging. I'd say are the big things, and just being aware of things ending. Everything will end. From to take it back to physics, like with entropy and tearing the whole world apart into nothing. Like literally, we come out of nothing and we go back into nothing, and existence is like that. And I feel like that's kind of like the theme of this, and how you deal with that personally, and in healthy ways and unhealthy ways. Because I think you can kind of take that sense of whatever it is, dread, or just like, to me, it's not like a scary thing, but it's like, it's something that you kind of have to contend with. But I think people can pour that and then start drinking, or it can just fuel depressive episodes. And the record kind of covers all of those things, like the good and the bad, and how you deal with hurt and loss. And
there you go. You see, there's your pandemic theme. Yeah, already running through it. Because I think for a lot of us, this pandemic has been life-changing in terms of it's made us realize how fragile we are.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely. And that's something we like. It's not to say that the world is perfect now, and absolutely right now, the world is probably in more dire straits than it's been in 100 years. So, but like, I think we can all agree, when you have your lives changed like this, you realize how good most of your life is. Like we're like, it just how technology makes it so that I can talk to you from, another part of the world and everything. Like, we are very fortunate, but having everything taken away like that, it does change you. Yeah. And I think it's important to think about that, and to actually you know, think about how that's impacted you during this whole time.
So would you say once you've listened to the album, do you come away with it as a question, or do you think you come away with it, you know, with a positive response?
I think that's tricky. I feel like there's hope in it. I think Sean
I think there is.
Yeah, I think Sean would argue there isn't. I think if he was here and he would be like, no, absolutely not. We're done.
This is dystopian.
Yeah. But I don't see that. I see it as like, especially, it's hard because the record's not out yet, but I feel like by the time Horses end, it's a feeling of like life goes on. Like you as people, we do go through these things and these events, and whatever, if it's someone you love dying, or if it's your dog dying, or if it's like just these life-changing things. Yeah. But in those moments, they feel like you're never going to get through them ever. And then when you actually do, speaking of dogs, that's a lovely little bark, I must say.
You see how I did that sound effect?
Yeah, that's right. Button. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, so that's my takeaway from it, is like humans and life itself is very durable and resilient, and you can experience these things and come out of it and be changed, but be okay. And that's it. So I feel like that's sort of the journey that the record takes you on. It doesn't really, there isn't a resolution. The resolution is like, well, life, the next day is just going to come anyways, whether this person's here or not, or whether, you know. So I feel like that's kind of the underlying theme for the whole thing a little bit.
I think you may well be right there. Yeah. So what's the future hold then for the band?
So our new record, Horses in the Abattoir, comes out on November 19th on Freakwave Records, which is our new record label. They're Berlin based. They're great. They're really, really good.
I mean, Berlin, that's cool, isn't it? Right?
It is. Yeah. And these Germans are very efficient people, man. They
But look at all the records that come out of Berlin.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of our last shows that we played was at SO36 in Berlin. Yeah, and it's like, this is where, like, I was reading the history about it, and I'm like, okay, this is where Bowie and Iggy Pop would go hang out and just hear crazy music. And I'm like, what the hell, man? And like, now, so that's the thing, dude. Like when you're in in a city like Berlin, like we've been a few times, it's like, man, you feel it. You feel there's something there. Like there's so many cool, like Kreuzberg, there's so many cool spots in Berlin. So yeah, we jumped at the opportunity when Thomas and Eric, hello, Thomas and Eric, we love you also. We jumped at the opportunity because they know their stuff, man. Like Thomas Thyssen was working at Universal Music Germany, and these guys are good. These guys have been around for a long time, and they're very experienced. And they what I like about them is they want to help younger, hungry bands. And as much as it's cool to see, the Pink Turns Blues and the Clan of Zymox still kicking around, it's like you need to focus on the younger crop of bands coming up too. And there's a lot of really good ones right now. And so they kind of, I like that. And that's the same with the guy, Pete Mayer, who mastered our record. He's, worked with like tons of huge artists. So it's like, and him too. It's like these guys want to help younger independent bands. So the record comes out.
Trust me, my friend. It's one of the most annoying conversations that I have with people about music over and over again. Is that people go, "I'm not sure that there's any good music out there these days."
Are you? Are you kidding? Have you Black Country New Road? Are you like that album is one of the best albums I've heard in a long time. Like I really dig that record. I think people that say that aren't listening to enough new music. I think it's just people stuck in the mud and, like, of course, the stuff you grow up with is going to be the music that you love the most. But like, there's so much good music out there right now.
Well, I think it's two things. One thing is I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of going, you like music just because it's it's part of your past.
Yeah.
And it just reminds you of your past. So you kind of go, oh, yeah, but the great bands were there and there's no great bands anymore. So there's that.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is that there's actually now with the internet and streaming and everything else, access to music. There's so much music available.
Yes.
Right. And I think it actually, whereas, when I was young, you had to queue and you had to
Yeah.
Basically,
You had to do the work. Yeah.
Well, you had to physically listen to a record to understand what was on that record, and and you had to get access to that somehow.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get everything because you didn't have enough money for everything. Now you can pay, £9 a month or whatever, or if you're a student, next to nothing, and you can just listen to anything. Yeah. Right. So I just think there's so much. And because for some people, when there's so much available, just go, there's too much. I like that. Yeah. And I understand that. I totally, I get, friends of mine never stopped listening to Korn and Slipknot and stuff. And it's like, I kind of get it. Cause it's just like, you grow up and you get a job and, but it's interesting because I feel like, it's more people are listening to music now than ever, but I feel like it's also music's more disposable now because of that. And I think people take it for granted because there is so much of it. And some stuff, it's not that good too. Like it is, you do have to kind of sift through things to find stuff that you like, but the stuff that, it's all out there. There's always good stuff. There's always going to be crazy, weird young people making. Well, you may not have seen this on any of my previous shows, but I'm on a massive campaign about T-shirts. So I'm so glad about the T-shirt thing because what I keep saying to people is, if you and this is my tip to every band, right? Every young band, get a T-shirt made with your logo and stuff on the front of it, and on the back it goes, "I listen to the band on Spotify." Right. And let the Spotify generation buy that T-shirt. Right? Right. Because if everybody that listened to you on Spotify bought a T-shirt and gave you a tenner for a T-shirt, you'd be quitting.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's good.
Yeah, and it's great publicity for Spotify. They'd love that to happen. Yeah, In fact, I think Spotify should do a deal with bands where they promote the T-shirts.
Yeah, they should. They should. I think they should. I think, Spotify is interesting. It's very interesting.
We won't go too far down that.
No. But yeah.
It opens up music to a lot of people. Which is really great. Yes. And that's why you should buy your music from Bandcamp. And
100%. Yeah, absolutely, man. 100%, dude. Yeah.
So with that in mind, we'll get into that in a minute just before we go. But so if in the future, because obviously the albums, when would the album be out?
November 19th. So pre-orders or pre-sales up right now. Online shops, wherever you get your music. It's
obviously I'll get my copy before then. But if once the album's out and that's it, and folks will give you the details of that in a minute for November the 19th. Going forward, I've asked this loads of times before. So if Traitors could actually collaborate with, thinking about that Robert Smith track with Church. If there was someone that you could actually collaborate with on the track going forward, whoa,
man, that's hard.
I love it as a question because sometimes it's not the obvious answer.
No, it isn't. Like
you might say Dolly Parton, for example, and that'd be fine.
Right. that'd be kind of cool. I used to make this joke because Sean and I, because when you're on tour, you listen to every kind of music or whatever. So Sean and I are closeted Hall & Oates fans.
Oh my word, yes.
Dude, they're the best. So we used to do interviews.
Watch out, here she comes.
Dude, they're these perfect little pop things. They're like it's I don't get it. So I would tell, we do interviews overseas and I'd say we'd want to be the post-punk Hall & Oates, and I always crack me up. But so maybe, get Hall or Oates. on a Traitors track.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of. But somebody
So
who
you'd like to do Daryl's house?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't
that would
know.
be great.
It would be. I think. Yeah, it's hard. We are so Freakwave is a subsidiary of Schubert Music Publishing, and they actually picked up Lisa Gerard from Dead Can Dance and from her like her like doing like the Gladiator soundtrack, like her film score, like this incredible. So when I read that, I was like, oh man, like I gotta do something. Even if I just use her voice as a texture or something, like I need to. So that was like recently one that I was like, hey, that might actually, there's a chance that might actually happen.
Well, do you know what I tend to do is when I retweet this, I tend to copy that person in.
Yeah.
Because you never know, do you? You never know.
No.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And that's somebody like Dead Can Dance, like those first two Dead Can Dance records were absolutely huge influences on the Rites and Ritual and us starting Traitors. It was like, they sound so different from everybody, and I love that. And yeah, so I would say, you know what? Yeah, Lisa Gerard is that's who I want to make a track with. There you go, man.
Let's try and make that happen.
But yeah. We'll talk to I'll talk to Thomas. I'll be like, hey Thomas, remember that? Remember I threw that weird idea at you a long time ago? Let's let's follow through on that.
Yeah. It could be real kind of This Mortal Coil type.
Yeah. See, that's
going on there.
See, I would like, because when Sean and I were talking about ideas for that, it was like, I'd like to do a song that feels like something that she does. And then I'd like to do like pull her into our world where it's a little bit, like punkier and faster and whatever, and get her to kind of, the way churches bring Robert Smith into a track. I'd like to see what she would do in a Traitors song, and then do something more kind of, like what DCD would do.
Yeah,
it would be cool.
And that's what I thought worked so well about that Churches track as well. It was, you hear Lauren's vocal, and Lauren's got a very clean. I mean, it's a very clean soprano voice.
Mm-hmm.
And you're waiting for that moment when Robert comes in, and you think, where's this going to go? But it just works. Yeah, it just works. And I think great artists are really good at being quite sensitive to somebody else's work and knowing what to do. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think she would be really good if you brought her in. I think she'd know how to do. Yeah. Oh yeah. What she needed to do on a Traitors track. I think it would be familiar enough for her, but I also think that it would push her. Yeah, because we come at things at weird angles and we try to, we try to do different stuff. I think that would be cool. That would be really good. Yeah. My friend, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, this was great. Yeah. Thank you for talking to me today. So remember those dates first, folks. So the single's out. Yes. Oh, Ballerina's out. Magdalene is out. Listen to it wherever you listen to music. Spotify, whatever. Bandcamp. Absolutely. And is that where you can pre-order the album? Yes. Our pre-order is sold out, but we're going to change that very soon. So there will be, because we sold out of the pre-order that we put up, but we are going to throw up again. But through Freakwave Records, Schubert Music Publishing, Google our name, you'll be able to find where to pre-order these things. And support independent artists. Yeah, man. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because folks, music doesn't just appear out of the ether. Yeah. I know. These things take time and quite a bit of money to do. So people actually have to write these songs. Yes, believe it or not. It's not just that black box in the corner that's producing them magically. Yeah, right. With look, there's a little man in there. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That little man's written all those songs. So please do. Yeah. I mean, and it's been an absolutely tough year for artists because they haven't been able to go out and play stuff. So just buy it.
Yeah.
My music.
Yeah, thanks. And it's really that I have to say, like, to our fans and people that have supported us, and like, you know, this time is rough on everybody. And if I'm not exaggerating when I say some of the emails and messages that we get from our fans saying, you know, just thank you, you're helping me through this stuff. Like it makes us, you know, we get emotional when we read these things. It's really touching. And the support of our audience is really cool, man. Like they're really nice, creative, interesting people. So thank you for helping us and anybody that supports independent artists. Like literally every little bit makes such a difference.
Do you know what, Sean? I think that says it all, really. If you as a band can actually create a family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Not just consumers of your music, but family.
Exactly. Dude,
you know,
that's what it feels like. Like it when we play these shows like Mini Cave, and we see Nina from, you know, Munster, and we see our friend Dominic in Frankfurt, and we see these people that we don't know them in the sense that we haven't met them a lot of times. But it's like you because you have this thing that you're all into. It's like it helps you. You know, it's like it's not just an icebreaker. You feel like family. It does feel like that. So that's the one thing, man. Like when we were doing our shows, like I'm the one at the merch table. You're buying records from me. You're buying shirts from me. You're talking to me. You're hugging me. I'm sweating, and we experience this thing together. And we definitely, like, the word fans is a weird one, and audience is a weird one. I don't know, but like I agree. I think it's like the more connected and in touch you can be with your audience and create something that feels like a family, because it goes both ways. Like if we just record this stuff and nobody listens to it, we can't, you know, try to make a living off of it. And so
come and play the UK sometime soon.
Yes,
that I can hug a sweaty Sean and buy a t-shirt.
All right, man.
Where? Good. Southwest of England.
Okay.
Exeter, Bristol, somewhere like that. Brilliant.
I think that's coming. We're getting played a lot in the UK lately, and we are selling a lot of records there. So I think a UK tour, once this nonsense is sorted out, we will come.
Lovely. Yeah. My friend, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Graham.
Today.
Have a great day. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.